Just starting recording. Hello, everyone. It's great to see you here on another webinar from Cambridge Finance. I see some common faces there. So not faces, names, because I can't see you here. But it's great that you're joining and you keep coming. So I'm glad to see you again. Right. So what I want to talk about today is this idea of DCF. So if you are doing discounted cash flow analysis, or better, if you're not even doing that yet, we're looking pretty much on a profit basis without taking into account the time value of the money. I think now, especially with the RSCS, the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, bringing forward their now valuation method that you should be using discounted cash flows, I think it will be a good idea for you to start understanding what a discounted cash flow is and how to create one. Okay, we are going to use a case study that is pretty much available on the internet. Okay, I put in the chat box the link is just one that I googled it, and you can find a lot of development appraisals already on the website, how it's done. Oh, well, the numbers only, but not how it's done. But the idea today is how you go about these numbers and how they are calculated. Okay, so I'm gonna start sharing my screen here. So let me just start this my screen. So if you're not familiar with who we are Cambridge Finance, and then my name is Maria Wiedner. I'm the CEO of Cambridge Finance, and normally what I do for a living is that I do a lot of financial modeling. I do a lot of valuations, and I also teach. So my passion is really teaching. So I do like teaching financial model, investment appraisals, development appraisals a lot. So that's why we are here today. So the session today is about DCF valuation for real estate. Okay. I'm just going to show you like this because we're going to go to the model in a minute. But the idea is that when we're doing development appraisals, normally the question is, what is the site price? And then how you go about doing the residual valuation. Okay, so we hope we have time to cover this here today. Also the idea of GDV, NDV, and sales proceeds. So GDV, gross development value, net development value. And then also in terms of development costs, what kind of development costs are there, the soft, hard costs, and finance costs. And on the finance costs, what I want you to go about is like normally, because what we're going to do is use Argus developer as a base case, because normally that's how appraisers, development appraisers do it. But how it's calculated in Argus, and how it doesn't really reflect your cost of finance. But I want you to be aware of it. What is this cost of finance coming from? And also what we're going to look at is this performance measure. So pretty much doing a development appraisal in 25 minutes. So let's do it. If you have any questions, I'm just going to put here to the left, to the right, actually. And if you have any questions as we go along, please do send them on the chat box, okay? Because I can see them here on the Q&A. So there's a Q&A here. There's no questions, no answer, no open, but you can put any questions there. Right, so let's start. So our case study, and I sent you the link, is pretty much what it's done. Like, so if I sent you the link of this development appraisal, and there is well, I don't know this company, but I just found on the internet. But normally what happens is that you can find this kind of development appraisals, which is done through Argus software. If you're not interested in knowing how these things are calculated, then you don't need to be an appraiser, really, because the idea is that you understand what these numbers are doing, where these numbers are coming from, and what are the risks and returns of this development. So the idea of actually creating Excel models is that you can understand where the numbers are coming from. So from a advisory perspective, you will be a lot stronger knowing where the numbers are coming from and what's happening to them than just putting everything on Argus, and then the number is going to come out like 13 million in this case, and then like, what is this 13 million actually doing? Right. So what I've done is that well, I'm just gonna get the PDF. So I just wanted to show you here the link where you can find it, and but the PDF looks a little bit better, so I hope you can see here my PDF. So this is the performer. So it's a care home. So it's care home. And then this is what it looks like. So when we're doing development appraisal, always the idea is to calculate this performance measures. And then from the performance measures, normally what happens is that there's going to be a target performance. So it can either be a profit on cost, a profit on GDV, a profit on NDV, development yields, or the IRR without interest. So normally there's going to be a target here that is a ratio, and then from there you can say, okay, if I want, for example, here it seems a little bit obvious that the return here was set on profit on GDV as 15%. So they say, okay, I want a profit on GDV of 15%. So therefore, how much is the land value? And that's the idea of land acquisition cost, which they put here as residualized price. Okay, so that's the residual. So it's not that there is a value already there. There is not a like the bidding price, but the idea is that there is a residualized price on the land, and that's based on the target performance here. So in this case, I guess it's on profit on GDV, because this number here seems to be pretty rounded. So there is going to be a goal seek on one of those performance measures here. So for the first performance measures, profit on cost, profit on GDV, profit on NDV, and so on, you don't necessarily need a cash flow. You don't need to know when the number is coming in, the number is going out, and nothing like this. But if you want to calculate an IRR, and if you want to say, okay, my target is on IRR, and the IRR being the internal rate of return, so the annual return on this investment, then you will need a cash flow, because with the internal rate of return, where the timing of your money coming in and out will have an impact on your IRR. For example, if you have in a lot of money being drawn down as it's in development in the beginning, and then you just start to receive income at the end, that might have a different impact than if you have like not so much cost in the beginning, but you have a peak in the middle, then you have more, then you have like slow cost again. So like all the way the cash flows are distributed will have a different impact on IRR. Okay, and then the best way to look at this impact is if you actually calculate and see what's the impact of each of those variables here on internal rate of returns, and also on the land value based on net present value, or IRR. Okay, so I hope that's more or less clear. Again, if you have any questions, please put them on the chat box. Okay, so let me just. Okay, so transposing what this Middlesex care home Crawley was doing. So here, the first thing they calculate is the revenue. Okay, and then the revenue here is what we call GDV, gross development value. So the gross development value is a function of, as you see here, the rent and what we call the yield, the year's purchase here, the yield, okay, or cap rate, yield or cap rate. So in our case here, right, so if we're just replicating here, the revenue is a function here, the GDV, as you see here, is a function of, let me just zoom in a little bit. So it's a function of the rent, 37.88, which is what they said is the rent per square foot, times the area, which is your NIA or net NIA or NLA, the net internal area, and then they put here 15,683, and then that gives, and then a yield of 4.5%, that gives you a GDV of 13,201,067, which is the same as we achieved here. Okay, so this GDV then therefore is a function of the rent times the size divided by the 4.5%. That gives us 13 million. Is this the amount that you are the developer, if you are the developer, going to achieve? No, because this yield here, in this case, is what we call net initial yield. So if it is a net yield, that means that purchase costs are included in this 13 million. So you can think about the yields here, the net initial yield, like the true profit in year one. Why true profit? Because you're going to spend 13 million. So if you want to find out what is the net development value, then the net development value will be the gross development value, but taken out 6.8% of what? Of the net value, okay, of the net value. So for you to get from gross to net, what you need to do here is you need to divide by, so here is going to be, here is your NDV. So here, your NDV equals, what can I type in here now? So your NDV equals your GDV divided by 1 plus your purchase cost. Okay, and then in this case, use 13,360,000. And then if you go here to my Excel sheet, that's what I get. So it's going to be the 13 million GDV divided by 1 plus your purchase cost, which gives us 13,360,000, which should be what they have, 13,360,000. Okay, so we're just trying to replicate. So there's nothing much of DCF here. But then once you've calculated the NDV, what I do is I take out the concessions and sales costs and anything else, so I can find what is my net sales proceeds, okay? Because the idea is that this net sales proceeds is my income at the end of the day, is my net income, because what I need to take into account is that there might be like some concessions that might give, and then you also have some sales costs. I understand that here in this, what Argus does is that it puts the cost, the sales costs here at the end. This doesn't have any impact on the calculation of your your profit, but it will have an impact on the calculation of your IRR, okay? Because in my case, I only take out this disposal fees at the end when I sell, whereas I'm not sure how Argus includes the sales cost, if it's distributed over the period or if it's like in the beginning or at the end, is not clear. So in my case, I just take out 1.5%, which is what they said here. So 1% say agent fee, 0.5% the legal fees. Okay, so then here we have a sales proceeds of 12 million, okay, the 12 million. And then this 12 million is going to be, is going to be at some point, it doesn't say yet when, what's the timeline of your development. the timeline here is at the end, okay? Okay, so what do we do with this information? So now what they do here is that they find the residual value, okay? So here they put explicitly the residual value is 1.7 million, okay? So we add the 1.7 million here, and then they say there is a 5.92% purchases cost. So that's the net value here. So they added the 102 afterwards. And then everything, I think it gives us so the total amount that is spent on the land is 1.8 million, okay? Construction costs, so we have here construction cost of 177, and then this is what we put here, 177, and then they put here your the area, 37,000. So what I've done here is that I've run a goal seek on what is the efficiency rate of this care home from an NIA to a GIA, and that came up as 42% is your efficiency rate. Okay, so not particularly efficient, but I guess that's the nature of care homes. And then here you have construction cost of 6.6 million. Contingency 5%, that's pretty low. Normally we're gonna put like around 10 to 15%, but that's another story. Professional fees 10%, so that's how much they put there. Professional fees are therefore soft costs, and then you have here planning obligations. They've ignored the planning obligation cost. Maybe it's included in the 177 pounds per square foot. Okay, I don't know how they get like 177.56, but that's what they've done. And then you have here the soft costs. And then you have here total cost excluding finance, which is the sum of everything. So nothing to. One thing I like to mention when you do this kind of development appraisals without taking into account the cash flow is that if you don't take this, they add here this finance cost, and that's what they all do. All the appraisers, they put here a finance cost, which is normally interest costs. It doesn't necessarily have any bearing with your interest costs. Okay, so here is 6.5% your interest rate. Okay, why do I say doesn't have much of a bearing of? And this is the biggest problem with this Argus way of doing it, is because they put 100% of the cost is financed at this rate of 6.5%. Okay, this is not true because we can't borrow 100% in debt finance. So that cost here is pretty much not a very good estimate of what we think is going to be, because we can't borrow 100%. But even if you put like the less than 100%, you put a 50%, what happens with if you don't put 100% is that this profit doesn't change according to the timing of your development. So you're always going to have the same profit, even if you have like a 1-year development or a 10-year development, the treatment is the same. So I think that's the reason why they put 100% on the cost. So the 6.5% is not really your debt finance cost, is your opportunity cost. It's more like to think about what is the impact, more the impact of time on your profit rather than actually your cost of debt finance. Okay, so I just wanted to bear that in mind, because it might be that your profit might be better if you spend less interest, but in this case, in this kind of development, it doesn't take into account. So just to bear that in mind. But anyways, I calculated here. So the way they calculate here is on the 100% the land, and they have the construction, okay? And then the way they do it in Argus is that you have 6.5%, or the basis on the land value, total land value, I guess. I couldn't match 100% of what the costs are, but the idea is that you're going to borrow for the land over the whole development period, okay, over the whole development period. And the construction here is now it's different because the construction, so I put like construction hard cost and soft cost, so 100%, just to make this point of that this is not really a finance cost, but actually is an opportunity cost. And then here, what they do in terms of finance cost is that they, even though the period of construction is 8 quarters, in order for you to calculate the finance cost, you divide this the interest cost by 2, because the idea is that you don't draw down the construction amount all at once as you do for land, but you draw down like as in tranches as you need the money. So the approximation is divided by 2, but that doesn't really mean that you're going to spend this amount here. Okay, you might be spending a lot less. Or yeah, I think it's more, a lot less than a lot more, to be honest. But anyway, so then here you have the total cost, including finance. Just so you know, this finance is not your interest cost, it's pretty much the opportunity costs. And then with only that, you can calculate already your performance costs here. So the same as you did here, profit on cost, profit on GDV, and so on. The only thing you can't calculate is your IRR. So I've calculated here the profit on cost, profit on GDV and DV. So it's just the profit over those ratios. Okay, so nothing difficult there. And then also the development yield, which is the rent over the development costs. And then here, if you put a profit on cost of 15%, of 19%, which I think is what they did, then you might get here a residual land value. Okay, because if you say your residual, your land over value is 1 million, then you see that your profit on cost measures will change to 30%, for example. So here, what we do when we're doing this kind of valuation is run, you can run a solver or you can run a goal seek. So I'm just going to show you how to do the goal seek. So data, what if analysis, goal seek. So here you can set the profit on cost, for example, 19% by changing the land value. So that's how you do residual valuation on land value. Okay, so 177, 200, and so on. Okay, so that's the land value, which is pretty much what we had before. And then for us to calculate an IRR, for the IRR, and to calculate a residual on the IRR, say, for example, say you have a target rate of 25%, then you have to find out what is going to be the residual value, because until now we just calculate the residual value based on the profit on cost or profit on GDV, profit on DV. So of course, if you have, Argus and don't want to think about it, then absolutely fine. You can just do there. But the idea here is, what is this the IRR doing, and how is going to be the impact of your finance, or the if there are delays here, or what is going to be the impact. So for example, if you don't sell it straight away, because here the assumption is that you have 3 months for pre-planning, 2 years for development and sale. And then what happens if your sale doesn't come after you build it? You have, like there's a sales period. Then what is going to be the impact on your IRR? So you can see that, like if you have 1 year, for example, 1 year vacancy period or sales period, then what happens here is that your IRR is going to, be half of what you had before. So the impact on IRR is pretty big. So you need to be careful there. Let me just see here. In the context, you don't have access to debt finance for land that has to be funded through equity. How does it impact the financing cost? The finance cost will be impacted 100%, but in terms of valuation, they don't care. They put everything, that's how valuations are done through Argus. Okay, so if you have 0 land, then you still have to put here the land still have a base or interest rate of 6.5%, because this finance cost is not actually the interest cost, it's just the opportunity costs as such. So here, once you calculate, so I'm not going to show you how, like this distributions, but things that you have to think about. And if you come to my course, some of you have come to my course on this call, so you will see that we calculate, like what is the distribution of your soft costs, what is the distribution of hard costs. The hard cost is distributed according to what we call an S-curve, okay, normal distribution. And then we calculate a normal distribution from scratch. And then here is your cash flows. So here you can see what is going to be the cash flow of this development, because here what they show at the end here is just the timelines, but it doesn't show the quantum of any of these cash flows. Okay, so you need to be very so if you want to do it to look at it, then this is the how you're going to calculate it. So it's going to be your acquisition cost is going to be in period 1, and then you have a hard cost. So your hard cost is only during construction, and that's what we call, and that's an S curve. Okay, so then you know how much money. So from terms of project management, you'll be better off looking at a cash flow rather than just the appraisal, because the appraisal doesn't really tell you when you're going to need the money and how you're going to draw down. Okay, soft cost, the way we distribute soft cost is a straight line distribution, which means it's all the same. In our case, we just have 1 quarter, but if you put 2 quarters here, you will see that the distribution at the bottom here will be in equal amount. So that's the straight line distribution. Whereas the S curve, you see that they start slowly, and then there is a peak, and then it decreases again. Okay. The sales proceeds in this case, I didn't change here. It should be care homes. So I'm just gonna change here, equals care homes on top. In this case, what they say is that there's going to be a one-off sale. Okay, one-off sale of the care home. Probably there's going to be a refinance, or they're gonna sell to an operator. Then the income, the sales proceeds is at the end of the holding period, and then you have here development cash flow. Okay, and then with the development cash flow, you can calculate the profit. So the profit here is the sum of your cash flows, and this profit here, it should match the profit plus your finance costs. Okay, so if you want to check that this profit is working, so this is the profit, 2.7 million is the profit, and this should be the same as the profit minus your finance cost. It should be the same, 192. Yeah, so it's the same. Okay, so the sum of your cash flows, which is your profit, should be equals the profit minus your finance costs. Okay, this is actually your cash flow without taking into account any debt finance. So any borrowings is not coming through there, and nothing in terms of interest payments or fees payment. Okay, this could be the topic for the next webinar, perhaps. Normally what happens in development is that you have what we call an equity first drawdowns, because you have developers that the equity needs to be put out first. We have senior mezzanine that normally you take out the senior for a land, but then here Hama is telling us that we have he doesn't have land borrowing. It's 100% equity, so therefore all your senior debt is going to be for construction. And then you calculate here your development cash flow here, so it's going to be 1 million. So for the land, and then you have your soft costs, then you have your hard costs, and then you have here your sales proceeds. Okay, And then if you do that, then this is your cash flow. Then you can calculate your IRR here, which is the one I use the IRR function, which is the IRR of your cash flow. Okay, of your cash flow. And then if you want to set the residual for an IRR, and set a residual for your IRR, what happened here? Oh yeah. Then what happens is going to say, so say your target rate is 25%, then you can do the same and the same thing, goal sick, and then you're going to say, okay, my IRR to 25% by changing the residual end value. Okay, for example, the residual, so your new residual value will be 1.4 million. So that will be the amount that you would pay. So then you get a 25% IRR. Okay, so these are the two ways to do residual valuation, like the appraisals, really, based on the profit measures, profit on cost, profit on GDV, or IRR or NPV basis. Okay. So that's what I wanted to tell you about. I'm sorry I overran 2 minutes. I lost already one person because of that. But the idea here is to for you to start appreciating more the idea of discounted cash flow, what that is, and also for you to see what is the flaw of this profit calculation, because that's not going to be your actual profit when you're doing development appraisals. When in this case, in this development appraisal, okay, because this amount here is based on the assumption of 100% finance. Okay, I hope that was helpful. As always, please, if you need anything, please join our courses. We're always happy to hear from you, have you in our events. We just ran an event in London about interest rate hedging. So here's my email. I am on LinkedIn as well, so you can reach out on LinkedIn. But otherwise, my email, you should have my email if you're here. I also have a phone. This is actually my phone and WhatsApp and everything. And we're going to have a course in December 11 till 15th of December. If you want to join us, you can do it virtually or you can do in person in London. If you have come to our webinars, then let us know, and then you can get a discount code. Okay, just drop me a note and say, I came to your webinar. Please, can I have a discount? Then we're going to give you a discount for that. It's normally 10% discount, okay, which is, it's great. Great for you, not so good for me. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed the session, and I hope I'll see you at the next one. And please join us on our courses. Okay, so let me just stop share here, and I hope I'll see you very soon. Let me just see here what the question I have. Yeah. Okay, bye now. Thank you.